Darrin Porcher is a former U.S. Army officer and NYPD lieutenant who specializes in counter-terror strategies at home and abroad.
He joins us with more on what police departments like the NYPD need to do to stop these attacks. Dr. Porcher, as always, thank you for being here. And I want to start off by asking, what are the red flags that police departments look for in situations like this?
Well, the chatter. Oftentimes, people will introduce a narrative that someone is a part of something that is something that's bad, so to speak. So that information comes to a police department and they'll start a file. They'll start the investigation. Oftentimes, when we think about radical Islam, this is a very small and minute component of Islam. This is a disenfranchised population. Therefore, it's necessary for law enforcement to try to connect with these people as best as possible, but utilize the structure of that Islamic community as a partnership. That symbiotic relationship is how we can effectively get to that disenfranchised population that commits these horrific acts of terrorism.
Look, it seems like every couple weeks unfortunately, we're talking about a situation like this. There have been 9 ISIS-directed or inspired vehicle attacks since the one in Nice, France, just about a year and a half ago in July of 2016. In the summer of 2017, just a couple months ago here in New York City, a driver mowed down a couple of people in Times Square. You had those barricades up, though, that were fortunately able to save a lot of people. But you can't have that up everywhere. So what else do you guys do?
Well, one of the recommendations that I see that's moving forward with the nuances and technological advancements in policing are the drones. The drones are an effective and inexpensive means of providing a sense of omnipresence and an information exchange, such as if we put a drone up, we can see what's happening and we can transmit that information to police sources that can effectively dispatch the resources necessary. We have to take in consideration the Homeland Security Chair McCall stated last, I want to say in August, that there was an ISIS video that stated that this was an area that they had that produced a propensity for an attack. If we had a drone up, we could have got that information out and we could have just surveyed the scene. It's an arduous process to vet all of these sources that come in. However, we need as many resources as possible, and I see the drones as the cheapest way of doing it.
And to be clear, not to jump in on you, Todd, but just a couple months ago, the driver that I referenced, that was not terror-related, that was determined, but just an example of how it's hard to control these vehicles on the streets that are hitting people.
Right. You know, one of the things is you mentioned the steel balance in Times Square when we had that vehicle attack. The NYPD is now proliferating these steel balance throughout the city. So it's just going to be a matter of time before we have these steel balance up. And that could have assisted us with this situation here. But it goes back to that's only one cog in the mechanism of change and moving forth with the nuances in policing.
I know we're very early on in the investigation at this point in time, but in your experience, do you think this individual was known to police?
I believe that he was part of a social network that had an understanding of what happened. In addition to that, I believe that this individual was on the radar. They just may not have had enough information to move forward with a more credible surveillance, so to speak, because, like I said, it's an arduous task and it takes immense resources to vet a source, conduct surveillance, etc. This is something that went back, I want to say it was a year ago. Mayor de Blasio pulled a surveillance in these mosques. I thought that was a very valuable tool for us as law enforcement, but unfortunately the powers that be, the political powers, chose otherwise. This may be a teachable moment for law enforcement and the mayor for how we should effectively address these types of issues.
Yeah, we haven't had this truck attack on U.S. soil until yesterday. Maybe this is the thing that pushes the de Blasio administration over the finish line.
Dr. Darrin Porcher, thank you for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.